Michael Elliott here. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be taking you through my exact process of how I onboard 5-figure plus clients consistently in the automation space, and how I scope the work out to ensure that I'm not getting bitten later by not having things concretely written down in order for us to be able to be pulled into doing things that aren't included in the scope of work yet weren't quantified or identified earlier. This is absolutely critical to scalable business success. You should have this templated. I'm going to give them to you in the description, but I'm going to run you through the what and why now. There's going to be 3 individual tools that we use. There's going to be PandaDocs, there's going to be Google Sheets, and there's going to be Whimsical. Okay. Now, those 3 tools are more than enough for you to be able to onboard projects. I do it consistently. When it comes to delivery in terms of approach, do not go down the agency route. Unless you are an agency, then that's fine. You go down the route of producing these fancy presentations and pitch decks and everything. Personally, not for me. I'm speaking from a perspective where I have been in both environments, and obviously over the last 7-8 years I've been freelance and in a position where I've been delivering consistent projects and works. I have found that the best form of action that you can possibly take is to be straight to the point, clear, no fluff, just dive in with the solution. So this document, this automation proposal / scope of work document can only be produced once you've had your client call. And on your client call, you need to do, on the initial client call that you have with automation clients, you need to do 3 things. You need to find out what their key and core issues are that's taking up their most time, okay? You need to extract it. The second thing is you need to gauge the client's fit to you as a business. Are they a good fit on that call? I get vibes on calls, and I can dismiss inquiries based off of the way that they are with me during conversation of what they're asking for. And the third one is decide whether you have the capabilities of being able to do said project and deliver critically. That is really important. If something is outside of the scope of work, maybe the project's too big, then you need to ensure that you have the capacity to be able to fulfill it one way or another. I'm not saying to close big projects down, but those 3 things are really core. But it starts with understanding exactly what the client needs, and that's how you will be able to onboard them and get them to pay you retainers. So heading back to the document, I start all of these documents off with an overview. This overview is based off of 3 things. So the client has a problem. That's why you spoke to them in the first place. Whether it was cold outreach or whether it was inbound makes no difference. The only reason that they've answered your email, your application, your whatever it might be, or inquired with you for automation services and solutions is because of the fact that they have an issue. And you need to clearly get rid of these first 2 problems. People problems, market problems, because our solutions are system problems. And this is what we call a controllable. Okay? So, controllable. This is what we can help with. When onboarding a client, there are 3 individual issues that the client will face in terms of their internal system processes and business output. People problems. People problems are when members of staff, individual entities inside of said company are underperforming, they have issues with certain things, too many sick days, just a generalized lack of performance. There's the market issue. The market issue is things like recessions, world wars, things happening outside of the business's control that they can't have any impact over, so we can't worry about them. And the third one, which is where we get paid money, is the system issues that they face, the system problems that they have inside of their company. Laser in on that. But I showcase all of them during the onboarding process to give you the maximum percentage of chance of onboarding a client, because it outlines it to them clearly. So the controllable element that we're focusing on, okay, we cover this. So the people problems are simple to spot but hard to rectify. They're when current staff or lack thereof aren't capable enough to succeed and scale your company. Sounds brutal, but is true. for one reason or another. Maybe they're in the wrong position, whatever it might be. It could be no fault of their own. But this is a people problem that happens. We can do nothing about it, so we move on. After we just identify it. Marketing products, buy products of wider community, new technologies coming into market, competitors into your space, disruptions into businesses, downtime of products you may use or whatever, recessions, all of these things. These things are uncontrollables. We can't control them. Maybe the disruptions if we went down the software route, as I just said, but you understand the thing here. Wars, different things going on in the world can cause massive fluctuations with how businesses spend money and invest, both to you and to their own business, so they should keep it. But this right here, system problems, this is the money. This is where the money is. It's the only controllable in the list, so it has a big green tick for that. It will save them the most time, which is time equals money, so which is a critical problem. And I pitch it like this: system problems are what client name is currently suffering from, and why we've sent you this proposal. There are problems with there are problems with the architecture of your business, where work comes from, how it's delegated, and when it's automated. Pretty standard, but it fitted the bill for this, and this was manually written, believe it or not. You can use it as a template if you want to, but this was manually written. So, to be specific, this is where your conversation with said client comes in. You need to have done a thorough and proper interrogation. It sounds a bit brutal, but you need to be doing the interrogation in order for you to be able to ensure that you can get this bit correct. And a pro tip when discussing with clients on a call is that when you're having that conversation, listen to what the client is telling you. Make sure that you listen, and you listen carefully, because a lot of times you're so engrossed in winning this project, oh my God, I've got this new inquiry, that you forget to actually pay huge attention to what the client is telling you is wrong with their business. Think of like reverse psychology. You're not trying to trick them. You can help them. You can solve the issues. What you're trying to do is make sure that your proposal matches exactly what their pain points are. And you can only do that if you listen during the initial inquiry call. So make sure that you do your due diligence there. It's really important. So this is what I documented from this specific call. Support tickets require manual triage, even when answers already exist in your documentation or previous cases. 20 plus hours per week per person is being wasted, as per our call. So in this particular case, ex-client said that customer support staff are manually answering every single individual ticket that comes in. This is a SaaS business, so a ticket that comes in is, oh, I've got an issue with X on your platform. The ticket is here. This guy has to walk over to said ticket every time a new one is produced, check it. He then has to provide a solution, which we established between an 80 to 85% ratio is simply a link to their knowledge base that they already have that exists. Okay? So he has to manually do this instead of using automation. He has to write his answer, and then he has to wait on the response of said ticket whenever the client or customer decides to come back to him. Where all of it, an 85% of these problems could be solved with one response, one automated response. That's the number that we all came to as an agreement. Because a lot of these tickets are very basic. They're asking for specific things where if they just did a quick search of the knowledge base that they were provided, then they would have been able to answer the query immediately. Simply a link sent to them, just tick this box, change this setting, do whatever. That is the issue. 80 to 85%. This particular client had like 10 members of staff, 20 hours a week each, manual answering of tickets for a flow. If just by doing that, that's 200 hours a week. Let's say there was 6 It's 120 hours a week being spent. The value of that to a business should not be understated. Fixing that is huge on its own. We then went through the process of sales relying on human effort for lead enrichment, outreach, and CRM updates. So this wastes time introducing inconsistencies into the sales flow, which happens to be a SaaS business. Sales flow. So it introduces inconsistencies leading to reduced profit and revenue directly. During the conversation, it was discussed that an inquiry comes through. That inquiry is then picked up. They may be called, depends how they inquire, of course, but maybe they have a phone call. I'm not going to go too deep into this individual business's sales process. They get a phone call. They might have some MailChimp emails that go out. They get sent 3 emails in a row if they inquire. If it's a free trial, they have manual updates and sort of processes. And one of the key things here is this actual business had a free trial. So this SaaS had a free trial of 30 days. So they had a 30-day free trial. And what we need to do is look at customer success, because it has no unified system to detect churn risk early or summarize client health efficiently, again, affecting profit and revenue. So not only are inbound leads manually handled, so leads are manually handled. Not only that, let me zoom in. Just zoom in. There we go. Never mind. Must have broken my hotkey. Not only are sales inbound manual, so every single individual inquiry that comes through the door, doesn't matter how many inquiries come through the door, they all walk in, and then they all have different experiences. If you gauge it off of like a bar like this, and this would be the perfect client experience that you would have from a sales point of view, sometimes it's hitting here, sometimes it's hitting here. Sometimes the member of staff picks it up properly, gives them exactly what they want. Sometimes that might happen again, but it can also be over here. This is really important from a perspective of sales. You need everybody to have an experience that's inside an acceptable box of what you would expect your business to deliver to an inquiry. And when it's manual, that can't possibly be the case. Numerous reasons. Different sales reps have different skill sets. Lack of SMS marketing is a big one. SMS is a big one. No SMS follow-ups. But like I was getting into there a moment ago, this covers both sales and customer success. Now, every business, let's say you have a free trial, right? Every business has a free trial, and you've got people inside of this free trial. They're not yet a paying customer, but they're inside of here. What you need to do, and this is something you can really upsell to clients when you speak to them. This is, again, outside of like basic stuff like VPs and executive organization of days and things. This must be one of the top things that is upsold to businesses. They come in looking for sales automation or ticketing triage automation. When you have customers inside of your free trial and you have KPIs that actually dictate, give a really good indicator of whether that's going to be a yes or a no to becoming a paying customer. In this particular case, we established that it was if they had multiple phone calls with customer support. Like if they'd booked calls in with the sales team to go through specific things. I think it was 3+. If it was 3+, they had like a 90% chance of becoming a paid customer. If it was below 1, it was like 5%. So you can see from these numbers that if they hit their KPIs, then they will become a conversion. If they don't hit their KPIs, then they're not going to sign up. So you need an automated flow via email, SMS, inside of the platform to get them to do the action. SMS to take them to do the action for your individual business that gives them money. I hope you're following that. If you have a free, it doesn't have to be a free trial. It can simply be a form submission. Once a form's submitted, do they get an SMS right away? Do you want to send them a link to book a call? Do you want them to conversationally book a call? Do you want them to receive an email right away that tries to qualify them? Do you need them to upload documentation for qualification like insurance businesses do? All of these things you need to ask the business when you're on the original sales call so you can scope out the project like this. So then we've got some of the specifics here around knowledge and insight from past tickets and deals. You've got two individual people here. This is person one, this is person two. They have identical issues, but they have them 2 months apart. Then this has already been answered. And it's been answered properly. So it's been answered in the right way. Customer 2 comes in, asks the exact same query, but just 2 months later, we have a knowledge base, which most all SaaS businesses will have, and then you have old tickets. You have old tickets. Well, if you combine these two together, you can automatically answer the second query because it's exactly the same as the first one. It's literally as simple as that. And all it is connecting the dots. We know how to do that. That's why we get paid. That's the important factor, okay? The next one's routine actions. But let's jump into actual specific solutions now and like what I proposed based off of what I've just explained to you in the conversation. What I proposed was 3 different phases, okay, based off of priority. Phase 1, they were using Freshdesk. So phase 1 was to automatically sort and prioritize incoming tickets, reducing manual triage time by up to 90%. So not only because it's a SaaS business, there was also a priority issue. The customer got to assign their own priority, and that is not something that you want because when they do that, everything's urgent to said client. So you haven't got a filter. You need to put AI in the middle of that to be able to dictate whether it is an urgent matter or not, and you can use that from the knowledge base and previous tickets, plus AI understanding what the business is about, etc. But that's not really for this video. This was phase 1. So solving that ticketing issue that I mentioned about the manually handling inquiries was an important one. But what I also took from this is the fact that because they're manually handling all of their tickets, so they've got all their tickets and they respond to them and it goes for a round robin. But then when a client doesn't respond and they're not getting notified, there's loads of open tickets that just live. And eventually someone will pick them up. It's not an upsell, but this was something that wasn't necessarily thought about during the call, like proposed from the client, but something that I, from experience, understand is an issue. Freshdesk reply review uses AI to flag unclear or incomplete replies before they're sent, improving first response resolution rates. Because, like I said, 80% of these can be solved by simply just clicking a link and following the advice. Knowledge-based builder, so it converts sold tickets into searchable help articles, reducing repeat questions and support load. That was the diagram I drew a minute ago. HubSpot to QuickBooks invoice flow, and AI-driven lead enrichment to fix all of those issues. So that covers what I've just told you and what I documented and pitched to the client as the solution. Okay. Then for phase 2, because it was discussed around email processing and how to generate more inquiries, we have AI-generated cold outreach. We have deal notes summarizers. We have sales insights, so surfaces deal risks and performance patterns, helping managers to coach more effectively and reduce pipeline waste, the free trial example I gave you. AI cold outreach is exactly what said on the tin. Cold email outreach to be able to produce personalised outbound messages at scale, to have a low percentage hit rate in comparison, but actually give us a real understanding around what we can propel this business to from a SaaS perspective. And given that it's got a free trial, it's a good approach. So this was pitched as part of the deal. Sales insights, cold deal nurture, so re-engages cold leads automatically with timely follow-ups, keeping the funnel warm with no manual chasing. This can be both for people that exit a free trial and obviously from the sales insider, bit of a combination there between them, but lead nurturing in general, old leads. A year ago, this might not have been suitable when you used our free trial, but we've improved X and Y. What are we going to do about it? We do all of that automatically. There doesn't need to be a sales team for that. Churn risk detection, so early before flags at-risk clients early by analysing support usage and sentiment trends before they cancel. This is really important, obviously, from a perspective of retention rates, which is ultimately pounds in the bank. It's not quantifiable directly. They'll be able to see their churn rate and their retention rate, but obviously you can see the value in this as a business. As I pitched it to them, you can see the value of that, because that is going to help reduce the amount of clients that you lose. And customer health summary in phase 3. So summarizes client engagement in one view so that customer service actions can improve retention. You can see why they were in priority order, because this, if it was time, it would be like this. And phase 1 here is the most important. Phase 2 and phase 3. You phase your proposals and documentations based off of impact, and you do it that way. But you group them all together, this is my advice to you, into one retainer. One fee for management. Your goal is to get them on a long-term retainer. That should be made clear during the individual calls. You know what? That's probably one of my biggest tips when you're onboarding a client. If you are doing a one-off build for them, make sure that you prep them for a retainer beforehand, because you want the ongoing retainers to manage these workflows that you've built, be on hand to introduce new workflows, new scopes of work that you can charge for. You should do that right at the very beginning, and it's the way that you communicate and conversate that over to them. Don't push too hard. Don't go over the top, but just make sure that it's clear that your goal is to get them on a long-term retainer. It will make it much easier later on, instead of having a conversation where you sort of briefly approach it and say, hey, what about a long-term retainer? And they haven't even thought about it. So it's something which is key. Now, this next section is extremely important. So obviously told them, no, this isn't your diagram, and gave them a very basic AI-generated diagram. You could give them something better than this. Give them an example from a previous client. I don't know why I use this one, to be honest, but it doesn't really make any difference because the job closed, and closed quickly. So when you look at this is just giving them an example of a flow diagram. Okay. Now this is your whole scope of work. This, from phase 1 all the way down to the bottom of phase 3, is your whole scope of work. Then what I do, this is my personal preference. You could do the whole lot in one go, but my personal preference is to get everything I need for phase 1 on a call, and then get everything I need for phase 2 on a call, and then get everything I need for phase 3. You may already have it, or some of it, on a call or via message, right? Yeah, I can hear everybody crying, saying, Michael, why don't you just get it all at the start? You're having unnecessary calls. The reason for that is because what I've found is the chaos that ensues when you have multiple different departments. So here we have, for example, sales, and we also have customer support, and we have X. Those 3 separate calls of 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever to extract information. I've already spoken to the person I need to speak to establish all of the problems. the specifics and granularities and getting accesses to specific things. If it's obvious, get it right at the start. Like I got access to QuickBooks. Where's that? Is that? Oh yeah, that is in phase 1. Access to QuickBooks for this client. It turned out I had everything I needed for this client. It was just some tailoring for the AI cold outreach that was required later. Well, but the reason I'm saying that about the meetings is because when you are in a position of going through the calls and actually projecting this out, if it's a large retainer, it's worth that extra effort. It doesn't actually cost you any time because, yes, you have to be somewhere at a specific point, but having a chaotic call where there's 18 members of staff or 8 members of staff, 5 members of staff is what you could potentially end up with. And I like to break my projects down this way. Go for the whole thing if that's the way that you operate and feel comfortable. Be my guest. But the point is, the key point is that for every single one of the points above, you want to produce a flow diagram. And you want to put it to them. So, for example, I put this flow diagram inside of Whimsical. Actually, the one I'm going to show you is for the first 4. And they look like this. And they look like this because of the fact that when you are in a position of looking at what the user needs in terms of a flow, that this is the ticketing triage, okay? This is my bro Constantine. When it comes down to the ticketing triage, you want to set out a fundamental example of exactly what the flow is going to be, so that later on there are no questions. This is how we're going to build it, yes or no. When they say yes, you've scoped the work. You now have a flow diagram that shows exactly what you're going to do and what the steps of the said flow diagram are to solve the solution. And anything additional to that comes at an additional cost. Really, really important that you get this right, because otherwise you end up doing a lot of work for nothing. So solving their ticketing issues went like this. The ticket's created. It goes into an AI pre-processing approach, which inside of here has historical tickets, the knowledge base, which you can see here, which is connected to this, customer metadata and keywords. So it processes based off of the information that it's being provided via the ticket. It then validates the priority with AI, because I mentioned to you about priority being an issue. Everything is urgent, so everyone marks it as urgent, but it's actually not. And for the internal customer support team, they need to get to urgent, massive issues with their SaaS platforms quickly, instead of treating everybody with the same level of urgency. So validate the priority with AI. If it matches the AI, you just move on. But if it doesn't match, the AI updates the priority. And then we go through to this step. Now, something that isn't included in the scope of work, but I know, is that this client can receive tickets in 2 ways. They can have it through their support platform, which is the preferable way, or they can have it through an email form submission. And inside of the email form submission, there are missing credentials. So it's missing key and core things, such as priority, inside of it. So we have to add another step to this flow diagram to ensure that they're split. So if it was reported via email, then we have to update the properties. So account type from HubSpot. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Account type from HubSpot, query type, group, who it should be assigned to from an agent perspective, the category that it falls into, etc. It'll sleep 15 minutes in both times because you want it to look human. I think that actually changed. I think that went down to 10 minutes. But the point is that this is how you go through the process. And then automatically we create an AI using the knowledge base and previous ticket links from the knowledge base. The replies were originally saved as notes. I put this in all of my diagrams. You should do that. It's good practice. You don't want messages firing out to individual customers that are incorrect during the testing phase. You can test it as much as you want, but customers speak so differently and request specific things. You want to test it live, and there should always be that process. But again, up to you. Pulls from that knowledge base and ultimately answers the query. This ended up closing 77%, so we aimed for 80, we landed on 70% so far, because they are on an ongoing retainer. 77% of their tickets that came through automatically. no input, automatically closed from AI. So, and this flow didn't change. The ticketing triaging system did not change. If we then look at this, which is the client responded to an existing ticket, which is again another flow diagram that matches our scope of work, reply received, sleep, do exactly the same thing as in the first process, use AI to pre-process keywords, customer metadata, historical data, create the reply using the knowledge base, exactly the same as we did in the first flow diagram, and then end. Now, finally, this smart follow-up and close system, and I'm going to zoom out just to show this, these two coexist with one another. Because obviously at any point during a smart follow-up system, instead of having, which I explained the manual issues earlier, instead of having that, if the client replies in here, if the client gets a response, this fires and the process starts again. So it's a loop. It's a loop of tickets being created, responses being sent, answers being given, and being sent back to the ticket for a response, and then eventually inside of the middle there's an end that comes from the smart follow up and close feature that we've sort of diagrammed out and produced and pitched to the client. Every morning, Monday to Friday, this changed to weekends too for customer support. Get all open tickets, every single open ticket that exists. Is this the second day since the agent has last reached out? If it is, follow up and then end. If it's not, it moves to the fourth day, so it checks if it's 4 days, been the fourth day since the agent. If no, it would continue down. So if it continues to be like that, it will just end up staying in the ecosystem. But if the client does respond at any of these stages, the pre-existing one will start. But if there's no engagement to a ticket after the 8th day, we change the ticket status to close and it's ended. So I put in a diagram here to solve the first 4 phases that were signed off exactly as they are. Just the time changes, there was the time change. But the point is that the client didn't expect anything outside of this flow diagram. They didn't expect anything of me. I used flow diagrams during the standard operating procedure for my business to ensure that the client understood exactly what I was going to build. Flow diagrams are so powerful when it comes to sales. Use Whimsical, use the ability to be able to draw these out, take the time to do so. It'll give you, when you pitch that to the client and you then send it, obviously after it's been agreed, after the contract has been signed, this is, that these are produced, don't produce them before. But after the client has signed, now I know what I need to go and build and how I need to go and build it. And you don't have that unless you have this. So Whimsical's a fantastic tool for this. You can see how you keep them very basic, get the legend on the left so they know exactly what is happening, and just build them out really quickly. And it'll save you thousands of hours over the next few years. Because anything outside of this now, if the client said, well, when a ticket's created, can we do X? Then we'll say, yeah, of course we can, but this is how much it costs. Because your time's not free. Like you're working for money. You're not working. Time doesn't equal money when it comes to you. It shouldn't. It's experience, the ability to be able to deliver. That's why you should be in that position. But what I'm saying is, your additional time for you or your team to actually go and do these things should be compensated for. And that doesn't matter how small the task is, it should be compensated. And this is how you will ultimately grow your income. Like you can grow them from this stage. Often the scope of work changes, and that is perfectly fine as long as we've documented exactly what we want the process to look like from a point of view of the business, and to give you that. So then you can charge, and there is no issue. So we've gone through how you would put the proposal together. I list a few success stories, outline a timeline, for each individual steps. Didn't specifically call them phases, and did them in a ever so slightly different order than above, because there were some priorities that were needed for different steps. Listed the AI and automation tools, and this is an important note. So I add this to everyone. I tailor it a little bit, depends on what the business industry is. But, inboxology, cold outreach, inbox acquisition, NAN, make.com, OpenAI, ChatGPT-4, CloseBot as well, was something that we ended up discussing. But anyway, this is the template that you can use to be able to onboard a project. Now, finally, this is an automation proposal example. Okay, now this automation proposal example actually is minimalistic. I don't even particularly like this, to be honest with you. It's a bit too agency-like for me, but yeah, you've got this document. Now, you use the automation proposal that you had inside of here, literally everything you've got inside of here, the solution, the problem, and you input it into this document in the exact clear manner. And this is why you put in the legwork earlier, to be able to do this. Your problem, the solution in phases, exactly the same, maybe chopped a couple of bits off and just made a few tweaks just to make it look nice, whatever. You can copy and paste it directly, basically. Scope of work, phase 1, phase 2, you see this was a chopped down version of scope of work. All of the above scope of work will have an individual flow diagram as we progress. Once agreed, they will be delivered exactly as stated in that flow diagram and related to the above task. Timeline 6 to 8/10 weeks. This was based off of them. It took me 8 weeks to deliver it. Well, it didn't take me 8 weeks to deliver it, but 8 weeks was the delivery time window that I gave myself. You should always be flexible with yourself on timeframes and delivery. Ultimately, you want to, for the what's coming next in the steps, which I'll showcase to you, you want to get the job done as quick as possible. But I also am I'm a man who's big on actually delivering quality. So I will not rush through a process of an automation development build or try and skip through things that could be tailored, prompt engineering, things like that, where I can make them even better. I will do the job properly. I think that's critical. Like, you should live by that ethos. If you're a cowboy, don't watch my videos, because I don't want you to. Like, I want you to be in a position where you're going to deliver the result that you say you're going to deliver, and you do it in the highest quality manner. And that's really key. So that's why I give myself ample time. It wouldn't have necessarily took me this, but if you think about the workload that you've got on from multiple clients and what is happening, make sure you give yourself a fair window for you and a fair window for the client. Okay? And that's, nobody can argue then, and it gives you a good strategic approach. This was a signed project at 7k USD, with half of it paid up front because it was a US business. As you can see here, I always note the currency depending on where the client is to make sure. This is the amount due at sign-in, 50% required upon completion. The payment schedule will be as follows: 50% payment due once this agreement is signed, the remaining 50% once the project is complete. That way you're protected. Now, I'm no solicitor. I don't have any of this. I don't really care. I'm busy with projects and onboarding projects and doing the work it takes to win projects, that this I just copied and pasted. You could have ChatGPT write your basic terms, no joke. This is not legal advice. I just don't go through the rigmarole. I mean, what are you going to do? If a client doesn't pay you the final half, you're going to take them to court. You're going to try and claim your $3,500 back. You're going to spend more time and money doing that than you are just to move on to the next project. So I keep it in a way where most clients respect it. Just put something basic together. You can copy that, but put something basic together. Make sure that you understand. But the point is that you shouldn't be in that position in the first place, because you should have done your due diligence and watch my video on understanding the client and working with the correct people, because it's so important. Do not just onboard a project because it's money. Like you will hate yourself for it. Onboard client, there are so many good clients out there for you to go after. Don't worry about the guy. If you get on a call, you get a bad vibe, you think you're not going to work very well with him, walk away. Like the power of saying no. I'm big on it. I've just showcased to you there in the last, I don't know how long this video has been, last 35, 40 minutes, my exact approach to onboarding 7, 10, 15k plus retainers. I've done it again. 7 to 10, 15k plus projects, but also I've also discussed how you would tailor that to ensure that you get a retainer out of it, and how you would be able to use the leverage during this process to continue to set yourself up so that 90% of your clients go on to take a retainer. What size that is completely up to you. You can have a very small maintenance retainer, but they add up. The workload is very minimal, but if something pops up in one of their workflows in N8N or whatever, then you go in, you quickly fix it. It takes you 20 minutes, but you're on a retainer of $1,000. Or you can look for larger retainers where you're on an ongoing basis following their process as it changes. You're editing the flows, and you can charge 2.5k, 4.5k, 5k, 10k for that. It depends on the size of the project and what is required. Value yourself. Please make sure that you value yourself. If you don't, nobody else will. My name's Michael Elliott. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that lovely stuff. If you have any ideas for videos and you like this sort of content, comment below and we'll go from there. Cheers.